The day arrived for the bond hearing, and Miles Schaefer showed confidence that he would be able to make all of this go away with the evidence showing that. David did not occupy any of the properties being investigated. David wore a black tailored suit and smiled at his mother and wife, reassuring them that everything would be fine. He looked over at Billy, Jackson, Frank, and some employees of the company, whispering thank you for them showing up to support him and his family through this troubling matter. Everyone that was employed by the company either came to the bond hearing or watched the news in support of their employer and founder, David Palm. They all knew he was a man of great integrity and that he was innocent of all these allegations against him. That support alone made David realize the people he let down by not understanding that his loyalty should have been more with the people whose livelihood depended on the opportunity his company provided them with. He slowly looked at all the support and repeatedly whispered apologies to them for bringing them through this unnecessary period of hardship. The judge walked in and everyone stood up and the case started with the prosecution pleading their case.
Your Honor, today is a day that I, myself, along with the rest of my team, feel conflicted. Today we unfortunately and sadly bring charges against a well-respected and regarded young gentleman who is well loved by people whose livelihood is depending on his actions as well as his achievements.
The prosecutor, looking at the judge with sympathy.
But regardless of who you are, no matter how many great things you have achieved, no matter how many lives you may have bettered, you still must be and will be held accountable for breaking any law. As great of a man Mr. Palm may seem to be, we have evidence that he is funding a large criminal drug organization who not only distributes narcotics, but also commits kidnapping and murder if anyone stands in its way. Properties paid for with funds profited from Mr. Palm's global record-breaking business. Rufus Palm Generations were used as a place to distribute and make opium, opium derivatives, morphine, codeine, heroin, and synthetic opioid pain relievers like fentanyl, oxycodone, tramadol, methadone, and hydrocodone. 14 months ago, a young man whose name is James Michael, who goes by the nickname Sack, was brutally murdered because he was believed to be planning a robbery on one of these narcotic manufacturing properties funded by Mr. David Palm's company, Rufus Palm Generations. Word got back about what James Michael was allegedly planning, and he was later kidnapped by some people driving a black Escalade that belonged to Mr. David Palm. And he was later found with 3 gunshot wounds to his right temple in an abandoned building. Surrounding cameras showed the black Escalade going toward that area, and it also shows it leaving from that direction later. Today we are here for a bond hearing. I ask that you deny it. I ask that you deny it because we believe that Mr. Palm, who is a well-respected and globally connected criminal, could potentially run. He's well-funded and knows the severity of his crimes. With all the evidence we provide you with today, we ask, Your Honor, that you please consider our request to deny bail. This young man is very manipulative.
Looking at David eye to eye.
You know what really made me realize that he is the king of manipulators? He named his company after his father, who was a well-respected pastor within his community and surrounding areas. He used his father's reputation to hide his criminal enterprise. I rest my case.
After making their argument, the prosecution rested. David closed his eyes and reminisced about his father preaching to him about character assassination. He reminisced about how his daughter cried when she saw him being handcuffed. He thought about all the people his company employed and their families being faced with difficulties because of his irresponsible behaviors. He imagined his mother being hospitalized and him not being able to go see her because he was in jail. He imagined Tamika moving on with another man and the possibility of his kids being raised by another man who could potentially harm them. He thought about his brother and then realized they had nothing in common other than being siblings. A sense of relief hit him when his lawyer, Miles Schaefer, placed his hands on his shoulders, assuring him that the contract was the evidence needed to make all of this go away. Miles Schaefer stood up with a confident look that would make a lion question its authority and approach the floor to plead David's case. Miles Schaefer showing an intimidating smile at the prosecution.
You guys gave a real good presentation. It was very cute, should I say.
Now looking at the judge,
they mentioned that my client used his father's reputation to hide his wrongdoings. Well, let's go over a timeline of Mr. David Palm's wrongdoings, shall we? David Palm graduated top of his class, making him valedictorian of his school. He ranked top 2 smartest kid in the state the year he graduated. Went to college on a full scholarship and graduated top 3 in his class in college. 3 years after college, he designed and built a generator that is now worth over $350 million and is projected to be worth over $1 billion in just a few years. Notice, not once have I named the crime he was accused of committing, nor have I named the crime he has committed. His first investor was his girlfriend at the time, which is now his wife, who was blessed with millions of dollars in inheritance. That's where the money came from that was used to start off the business. I didn't name any wrongdoing because there wasn't any wrongdoing committed. He used his father's name to pay homage to him for instilling a great moral work ethic into him that, to this day, gave birth to a man of undeniable integrity. His father represents his creation, integrity, strong morals, and durability, helping you feel comfortable to trust that it won't let you down. Rufus Palm Generations, founded and owned by his son, who looks up to him as a hero. But everyone makes a mistake. Some people's biggest mistake is helping family. All those properties in question are contracted to his brother, DeLawrence Palm. DeLawrence Palm, who is the blood brother of David Palm, is a 2-time felon. By being a 2-time felon, he struggled to find work due to his previous convictions. He is the older brother of David and the oldest of 2 sons birthed by Mary and Rufus Palm. David Palm loves his brother. He has a 2-year-old son that he named using his brother's middle name first and using his brother's first name as his son's middle name, Denver DeLawrence Palm. He is crazy about his brother and believes in his brother. He loves him so much that he is blinded by the obvious problematic behavior that his brother possesses. So he buys properties and cars for his brother's use, hoping that will inspire him to become an entrepreneur like him. Why not just give him a job? Some may ask. Because his brother has David believing he wants to make his own way. Judge, I have in my hand the contract that shows DeLawrence is the one who uses and occupies these properties in question, not David.
The judge ordered both parties to come up and look at the evidence presented by Miles Schaefer. She also requested a 1-hour recess while they went over the evidence together. Tamika and David's mother, Mary, went outside to talk, and Mary told Tamika that she was proud and blessed to have a daughter-in-law like her. Tamika hugged her tightly and told her how blessed she was to have another mum in her life. While talking, Mary expressed to Tamika that she respected and appreciated how she was sticking with David through all of this. Tamika replied that she loved her husband and unless he was to cheat or abuse her in any kind of way, she would never leave him. Tamika stated that she knew who David is as a person, father, friend, and lover. Nothing in this world could make her believe that he would harm anyone for no reason unless his or his loved one's life was in danger. She also stated she knew for a fact David was not running some drug organization. Frank approached Mrs. Mary and Tamika to tell them that it was time to return back to the courtroom. Everyone walked into the courtroom with confidence, knowing that the argument Miles Schaffer presented in defense of David was enough to put the case to rest for good. After everyone gathered back in, they all sat down after the judge directed them to be seated.
I will admit this is one interesting case. On one hand, you have a man who has evidence showing that he is a well-mannered, respectful, and responsible young man. On the other hand, you have evidence showing that he is possibly a mastermind criminal who organizes crime on a high and professional level. My personal beliefs don't matter when it comes to law. I am held to make a decision based on evidence and evidence alone. The evidence presented by Mr. Schaffer is a legal contract between David Palm and DeLawrence Palm filed by Frank Schaffer of FS Law Firm. The contract proves that yes, Mr. David Palm is the owner of said properties. But Mr. DeLawrence Palm is the responsible person who owns, invests, and profits off of said properties.
Everyone applauded after hearing this news, causing the judge to say, "Order in the court," striking her gavel, waiting for the officers to settle down everyone in the courtroom from celebrating.
Unfortunately, the contract was signed 5 months after the kidnapping and murder took place, which would make one believe that because of who he is and his connections, he possibly could have been tipped off about an investigation. Based on the evidence I now have in front of me, I have to deny bail at this time. Your lawyer can put in another request for a bond, and I'll schedule it accordingly. Court is dismissed.
The audience was left speechless once the bond was denied. David looked at all his supporters in the audience and lastly looked at his mother and wife's faces and saw the worried, scared and hurt look on them. He stood up to be taken away, and while leaving he shouted to everyone, "I will be fine. Don't worry. I love all of you." Mr. Miles walked over to Tamika and Mrs. Mary and told them, "Don't worry. This is just the beginning of a long fight," and he assured them that they would get through this.
DMG Studios, stories that make us better.